The world taught you to bow, to make yourself small, to bleed apologies for existing. But beneath your mask lies something darker. Older, the silent rage of a wolf caged too long in winter. You smile when you should bare your teeth. You forgive when you should collect the debt. And every false apology slices deeper into your own spine, carving weakness where bone should be steel. You feel it, don't you? That hunger at the edge of your chest, the fire that refuses to die, no matter how they try to crush it. Your scars whisper louder than their praises. The silence inside you is not weakness. It is a throne waiting for its king. Tonight, you rise from the cold ashes. Tonight, you stop apologizing. And the world will finally remember why it should have feared your silence. They told you pain makes you weak, that suffering is some kind of defect, a wound to be hidden, a shame to be covered up. But you've noticed by now, haven't you? The weak ones aren't the ones who've burned. They are the ones who've never touched flame, the ones who've lived too comfortably, shielded from the furnace, soft, breakable, hollow. You were not spared. You were thrown into the fire without warning, without mercy, and while it tore into you, while it left scars across your chest and mind, something inside you refused to die. The world thought it was breaking you. It was forging you. Every time you apologized for existing, every time you made yourself smaller, every time you lowered your eyes just to be accepted, the iron in you was heating, bending, shaping. The pain you wanted to erase was nothing less than your blacksmith. You call them wounds, but I call them designs. You think back to those nights you stared at the ceiling, fists clenched, feeling invisible and unwanted. You thought you were decaying. In truth, you were being molded into something unrecognizable. Tell me honestly, didn't you feel the heat? The unmistakable fire in the pit of your chest, the kind you couldn't kill, no matter how many times you told yourself you had nothing left. That was not weakness. That was the mark of destiny. A man who has never burned has no steel in his spine. He folds at the first pressure, bows at the first storm. But you are different. You've already walked through fire. And because of that, the fire walks in you. You've felt the mockery. You've lived the dismissal. You've had people turn their backs when you needed them most. And yet, you are still here, breathing in silence, standing more unbroken than even you realize. Tell me, who do you think is truly powerful? The smiling one untouched by pain, or the scarred one who rises quietly from ashes? It is time you understood the truth. Nothing was random. Not one betrayal. Not one night of loneliness. Not one apology you forced out of your throat. Every drop of shame was a shaping. Every rejection was a hammer. Every invisible scar is a blueprint carved into your flesh. You don't want to hear it, but you already know. That furnace you hated has marked you for something beyond their eyes, beyond their reach. You were not damaged. You were reforged. Think of the fire itself. It never apologizes for what it consumes. It does not tremble, does not shrink, does not explain. It devours, and it transforms. A forest burned down is not gone. It becomes rich soil so life can grow again. Iron burned in the forge is not ruined. It is readied for the sword. Fire does not weaken. Fire consecrates. And inside you, that heat has never gone out. It hides in your silence. It sharpens behind your eyes. It is why even in your quietest moments, people sense something dangerous beneath your calm. They don't understand it, but you do. You think back to the moments where you broke, or thought you did. The moments you whispered, "I'm sorry," for no reason but to avoid conflict, to please, to earn scraps of acceptance. Those were not betrayals of your character. They were early signs of a man still in the forge, not yet cooled, not yet complete. Stop despising the boy who knelt too often. He was simply raw ore in the flames, waiting to harden into weaponry. But that chapter is closing now. You can sense it. The heat has reached its peak. The iron is no longer malleable. It is ready to be drawn into a blade. Remember this. Every apology you burned on the altar of acceptance was fuel. Every time you pressed down your rage was coal feeding the furnace. And now the flame has done its work. You stand here scarred, but equal scars run like battle lines across every real king. Do you think a man becomes powerful by being untouched? No. He becomes powerful because he was touched by hell itself and walked out with steel bones and fire still smoldering in his chest. So I ask you a question, but don't rush to answer. Do you still see yourself as broken, or do you finally recognize the weapon being drawn in silence? Because men who escape the furnace too soon remain fragile forever. Men who endure it, men like you, emerge as something the world cannot bend. Iron, wolf, blade, crown, all of it sitting quietly inside you, forged from every humiliation you thought would kill you. Do not fear that fire anymore. Do not hate it. It is not your enemy. It was your maker. You bleed, you burn. But you do not bow. The scars across your chest do not say, "I was weak." They say, "I survived the flames, and I carry them still." Remember this: you were not burned. You were forged. And forged kings never apologize for the fire that made them. They taught you fear. They trained you to lower your gaze, to flinch at the slightest storm, to apologize for the shape of your shadow. You thought it was survival. But survival has never belonged to the sheep. Survival belongs to the wolf, and wolves don't flinch. A wolf does not ask the pack for permission to breathe. It does not ask forgiveness when its teeth draw blood. It simply exists, inevitable, quiet, unashamed. And that is what unsettles the world about you. Not your weakness, your strength. They don't understand. They can sense your eyes in the dark. They can feel something watching, and they demand you soften, explain, bow. But you know, deep down, the moment a wolf bends its neck, it ceases being a wolf. How many times have you caught yourself apologizing for things that required no apology? Apologizing for speaking too little, for speaking too late, for existing in silence. It is because you were raised among sheep. They saw your stillness and mistook it for guilt. They taught you flinching, but they couldn't kill your teeth. And now hunger lives in your chest like a storm restrained only by silence. A wolf in the wild does not rush. It moves only when the strike is certain. That's why wolves terrify. Not because they are loud, but because they pace. They stalk. They look into the storm without blinking. Power is measured in restraint. In your silence. In the pauses where others grow restless. Have you noticed how silence makes them squirm? How they fill it with nervous noise, while you simply wait? That is strength. Unapologetic, unhurried strength. No matter what they force into your ears, remember this. Men are not respected for flinching. They are respected for holding still, while the world tries to shatter them. Wolves don't explain themselves to sheep. They don't whimper for understanding. They don't kneel for approval. They stand, and when the time comes to strike, they strike with such surgical clarity that forgiveness becomes meaningless. The hunt itself is justification. You are at war, but the war wears masks. It looks like misunderstanding, rejection, dismissals, sideways comments meant to break your frame. And every time you apologize, you hand them your weapon. You feed them power. But when you stay silent, when you bow to nothing, watch how the balance shifts. Watch how their eyes flicker with unease, asking themselves, "What does he know that I don't? What storm waits behind his calm?" They will call you cold. They will call you cruel. They will call you arrogant. But you understand the truth. They only call wolves cruel because wolves do not flinch when sheep scream. This is the lesson. Stop seeking warmth in a world that only respects cold teeth. Let them talk. Let them mock. You stand still. You endure. And when the time comes, you remind them why silence is more terrifying than fury. Think about every predator you've ever known. None of them apologize. None of them flinch. Lions do not bow to gazelles. Eagles do not seek permission from pigeons. Wolves eat. That is the law of the forest. And you are not meant to be another sorry creature wandering the herd, begging for kinder pastures. You are meant to be the shadow at the tree line, eyes burning, steps quiet, waiting. It's a lonely path, isn't it? To walk without explaining yourself. To accept that your silence may cost you comfort, friendships, false acceptance. But it is loneliness that separates wolves from livestock. Sheep are many, wolves are few, And that is why wolves rule where sheep only graze. The moment you accept this exile, the moment you stop apologizing for the coldness in your blood, you step into real power, not influence bought with noise, but power earned in the shadows of restraint. Stop explaining. Stop justifying. Stop apologizing for the teeth you already feel growing in your mouth. You don't need to prove to anyone that your power is real. Wolves prove nothing. Wolves simply do not flinch, and the world learns, either through silence or through scars. So the choice sits before you now. Do you continue bowing for scraps, flinching for approval, apologizing for your own existence? Or do you finally close your mouth, still your heart, meet their eyes without blinking, and remind yourself that inside you walks a wolf who bows to none? Because when the time comes, and it always comes, the herd will scatter, the sheep will scream, the cowards will beg, and the wolf will not flinch. They told you silence was weakness, that if you don't speak, you disappear, that if you don't explain yourself, you're guilty, and you believe them. For a while, you filled the air with hollow words, tried to justify your steps, tried to earn the warmth of approval. But every apology, every explanation, every wasted breath only erased you more, until you noticed something. Silence has gravity. When you stop justifying yourself, when you retreat into your own stillness, others lean in, their minds stir, their doubts creep. They create stories in the echo of your quiet. That is the nature of silence. It bends weaker men into frantic motion, and the man who needs not a word commands a throne invisible to all but undeniable to those who feel its weight. Kings are not crowned in a roar. They are crowned in hushed reverence, in the stillness where no one dares speak above them. Do you think real power sits in the loud voices, the endless speeches, the ceaseless explanations? No, power sits in presence, in the stillness of a figure who does not need to defend himself, because his very being is an answer. This is the throne of silence. A ruler who does not beg to convince. A wolf who does not explain his hunt. A blade that does not apologize for cutting. Your compulsion has always been to speak, to explain when misunderstood, to defend when accused, to justify when overlooked. But the deeper truth is this: the strong do not rush to be understood. They allow silence to be their lawyer, their shield, their sword. Why? Because silence plants doubt. It forces others to question their own confidence, to wonder about what lies beneath the surface. Words strip you bare. Silence wraps you in mystery, and mystery becomes crown. Ask yourself, what makes a room fall quiet? Not the man who shouts, but the man who enters and says nothing. He sits alone, his gaze unmoved, his posture steady, and suddenly every voice lowers. They call it respect, but it is not. It is control. The control that comes when those around you cannot predict your next move. Because a silent man is a question no one can answer. And it is questions, not answers, that hold power. People claim silence is uncomfortable, but truthfully, silence is unbearable, only to those without inner strength. Watch how the weak scramble to fill every pause. How they reveal themselves by trying to escape the quiet. Let them run. Let them stumble over pointless words. You will say nothing, because nothing is heavier than silence. Nothing bends a room like pauses stretched into eternity. Nothing declares sovereignty like a man who refuses to explain himself. And in this discipline is your throne, a throne not made of gold but of stillness, because only men who master silence can master others. Words can be mocked, debated, twisted. Silence cannot be broken. Silence is final. It cannot be argued with or bent. It simply remains like stone, like steel, like the immovable presence of a man who has nothing to prove. They told you the throne was external. Titles, crowns, applause. But the real throne stands within you. Each unanswered insult erects a stone of it. Each refusal to justify lays another. Each withheld apology stacks higher its steps. Until one day you look within, and there it is. A silent throne carried not on the backs of others, but on the spine you reforged through discipline. They cannot give it to you. They cannot take it from you. Understand this. and you will understand the secret of kingship. He who explains himself kneels. He who speaks too much has already surrendered his crown. The man who commands silence commands everything, because silence forces others to bend toward him, to speak into the void he creates, to reveal their hunger while he reveals nothing. What else is this but dominion? The weak will laugh at you. They will mock the one who says little, call him odd, arrogant, detached. But deep in their chest they feel something they cannot name. Intimidation, because every man fears the one they cannot read. Every man fears the echo of stillness where his own insecurities scream. So let them laugh. Let them name you what they will. You will not explain. You will not flinch. And in that silence their voices will sound small, like sheep bleating at midnight, while the wolf waits at the edge of the trees. This is your task now, to sit on the throne of your silence, unshaken, unbent, unprovoked. It will feel heavy at first. The compulsion to fill, to prove, to please. But remember, kings crumble when they stoop to defend themselves. Wolves are broken when they howl too often. Your silence is your throne, and through it you command their unease, their questions, their respect, and eventually, their obedience. So the next time they push you, accuse you, demand you speak, remember what blood flows in you. Remember the weight you carry. Look them in the eye. Let the silence stretch, unending, unbroken, and know in that moment, they are bowing without even realizing it. You do not need their forgiveness. You do not need their applause. You do not need their understanding. A throne does not explain itself to the crowd. A wolf does not apologize to sheep. You are silence, and silence is crown. They told you forgiveness was noble, that to forgive was to rise above, to free yourself, to move on. Lies men repeat to keep you disarmed. Lies designed to keep your hands bound and your eyes lowered. Forgiveness, when demanded, when expected, is not virtue. It is a prison, a cage wrapped in soft words, a chain forged from your guilt. Think of it. Every time someone betrayed you, they asked for forgiveness. Not out of remorse, but out of convenience. Not because they wished to make you whole, but because they wanted freedom from the weight of what they did. And you gave it. You spoke those words. I forgive you, even when your blood boiled, even when the pain was far from healed. You thought it made you strong, thought it made you virtuous, thought it made you better than them. But did it, or did it leave you hollow, nursing scars they walked away from untouched? Forgiveness, when offered blindly, is permission. It tells the betrayer there is no consequence, no blood owed, no cost for the wound they dealt. And men who pay no cost repeat their crimes. Look at your life. Consider how many times the same people broke you, apologized, begged forgiveness, and then broke you again. Do you see the pattern? Forgiveness was the leash they disguised as morality. A leash you tied yourself. A leash they tugged when they needed. You were told forgiveness sets you free. Wrong. Forgiveness is freedom only for the one who hurt you. For you, it becomes prison bars. You still carry the scar, still wake with the memory, still look in the mirror and see a wound that never closed. They left unchained. You stayed locked inside the cell they built. Do not mistake me. I do not speak of petty grudges. I speak of the scar-deep betrayals, the disrespects, the humiliations, the ones you could not forget even if you tried, the ones that shaped the fire you now carry. Tell me, why would you erase those? Why would you give away the only proof of your survival? Your scars are your truths, and forgiveness tries to paint over them, to pretend they never happened, but they did, and you need them. Learn this: to withhold forgiveness is not bitterness, it is sovereignty. It is the refusal to give power away so easily. It is to say, you did what you did. I survived. The scar remains, and I owe you nothing. That is not weakness. That is rule. That is you declaring yourself untamed by their need for absolution. Forgiveness is not your duty. Your duty is only to endure, to remember, to build yourself harder than the world that struck you. They will call you cold. They will call you merciless. They will tell you holding on poisons you. But who decides what poison is? Is it poison to remember who your enemies are? Is it poison to let scars harden you instead of erasing them? Or is it poison to let liars, cowards, betrayers dig into you again and again, knowing you'll always give them soft escape? The truth is simple. Mercy without measure isn't mercy. It is surrender. Do not surrender. Let the wound remain. Let the memory stay sharp, because it is those echoes, those visions of betrayal, that will become your discipline. Scars are maps. Every line across your heart shows you where you faltered before, and where you will never falter again. Forgiveness would erase those maps, and leave you blind. Refuse it. Refusal is power. Refusal is strategy. You do not owe anyone your grace. You owe yourself your crown. And crowns are not forged by men who forgive too freely. Crowns are forged by men who endure, who wear their scars without apology, who remind the world that every action carries weight, carries price. The wolf does not forgive the hand that strikes. It remembers. And when the time comes, it acts. So recall every face that used you, every hand that betrayed you, every moment you forced yourself to say, "I forgive," just to keep the peace. Remember how you felt afterward, hollow, dishonored, chained in silence. And then choose differently. Choose the prison no more. Withhold the key. Keep the scar. Let the memory stand. This does not mean hate. It does not mean rage. It means sovereignty. It means when the betrayer looks in your eyes, they see not absolution, not escape, not comfort, but the unbent truth of a man who does not forget. You will carry the scar openly, silently, without apology. And the world will learn. Because every forgiven wound is an invitation for another. But every scar you refuse to erase becomes a warning carved into your flesh. Once was enough. Stop apologizing for your silence. Stop excusing their betrayals with pretty words. Forgiveness is their weapon. But memory, discipline, and refusal, those are yours. You do not owe them peace. You are not their priest. You are not their priest. You are their reckoning in silence. And in that silence, in that refusal, your throne grows taller. Exile, a word that tastes like ashes when you say it. A state most men fear more than death itself. To be cast out, abandoned, misunderstood. To walk the long roads in silence while others feast together. To look around and see no hand reaching for yours. No face waiting at the gates. They will call it loss. They will call it weakness. They will whisper that to stand alone is to be broken. But you know, deep inside, exile is no grave. Exile is the forge. Think of every moment you were cut loose. Every circle that rejected you. Every friend who vanished when the storm hit. Every lover who left. Every family member who stood silent when the blade was at your throat. Yes, it tore at you. You felt hollow. You stared into empty rooms, wondering if you were cursed, unseen, unworthy. That pain, it carved into you deeper than any visible scar. But what you did not realize was the truth buried beneath it. Exile is where men are built beyond recognition. Kings are not formed in feasts. Warriors are not made in crowds. The dangerous are never born in applause. They are made in the cold exile only silence can offer. It is in the long nights, with no voices but your own, that you begin to hear the echoes inside. The whispers of every scar, the hunger that no distraction can erase. Most flee from it. Most fill exile with noise, with drink, with endless poisons just to escape the mirror they fear. That is why they remain sheep forever. But you, if you endure this fire, if you kneel to no distraction, you discover the truth. No one coming to save you was the gift. It forced you to save yourself. Exile cuts away the unnecessary. Every false friend, every weak alliance, every mask you wore to belong, torn from you, with ruthless clarity. At first, it feels like death. And in a way, it is. The death of the man who needed them. The death of the boy who begged for belonging. The death of a self too fragile to stand alone. Exile buried him. And what rises from that grave is no longer boy, no longer beggar, but something forged sharp, dangerous, sovereign. Do you remember the ache of walking into rooms and being unseen? Do you remember the silence of being misunderstood by everyone? Those moments were not punishment. They were sharpening stones. They pressed you against the grind of solitude until your edges bled. But those very edges became the blade you carry now. Men who have never known exile are wooden swords, painted, polished, but fragile. You, scarred by exile, are steel pressed over and over until no blow can break you. Exile hardens in ways laughter never could. You learn to move with no applause. You learn to fight with no audience. You learn to grow teeth not for show, but for survival. And when you return to the world, the weight of your silence has grown too immense to ignore. People won't understand why their tricks no longer bind you, why their words no longer pierce. They won't understand that exile burned away the boy who needed them, and replaced him with a sovereign who bows to none. Do not run from the loneliness anymore. Let it reshape you. Let it break the pieces of you that crave validation, and leave only the core, only the wolf. Exile is pain, yes, but pain, endured alone, is alchemy. It changes the man who refuses to drown, and that change is irreversible. Once a man has been exiled, once he has lived with his own silence as his only companion, he will never again fear solitude. He will welcome it. He will rule from it. Your enemies thought they were destroying you when they left you in the cold. They thought isolation was your execution. But wolves are not broken in the forest. They are sharpened there. Exile was their attempt to kill you. It became the furnace that crowned you. Every man who thrives in exile returns warlike, blade in hand, eyes that cannot be fooled, silence that cannot be broken. So carry your exile as a badge. Do not grieve it. Do not curse it. Let them see it in your quiet eyes, in your slowing breath, in the way you walk through crowds like a ghost carrying unseen fire. You are no longer one of them. And that is the point. Sheep cannot make kings. Exile does. And the next time the world looks at you and wonders where your calm, your weight, your unshakable presence comes from, know the answer well. Tell them nothing. Just hold the silence of exile in your chest. Because only you know the storm you endured in that darkness. Only you know how that loneliness became crown. They exiled you to destroy you. But exile is a forge, and what walks out of the forge cannot be destroyed. You think you've forgotten, don't you? All those moments that knelt you. All those whispers behind your back. The laughter that carved into your bones. The betrayal you buried so deep you pretended it never happened. But your blood never forgot. You carry it still. Every pulse is memory. Every vein is a scripture etched in scars. You may silence the mind, distract the flesh, drown yourself in work, in noise, in women, in anything. But deep down, the blood remembers. Do you know why it haunts you in silence? Why, when the room goes quiet and you are alone, fragments of faces and words suddenly cut through like lightning in a black sky? Because wounds the mind tries to bury, the body refuses to erase. Blood records everything. Every humiliation is ink. Every betrayal is a carved command. Rage is not something separate from you. It is you. It is the furnace roaring beneath the calm mask you wear. But here lies the difference between men. Weak men drown in that memory. They let it rot them. Bitterness seeps, poisoning their speech, their posture, their vision. They become shadows chained to the past, prisoners of scars they never mastered. But there is another path, rarer, colder. That memory becomes a weapon. That rage becomes strategy. That blood-soaked past becomes oath. The difference is in your response. Will you let the memory shackle you, or sharpen you? Every time you felt humiliated, every time you curled into your silence, hands clenched, stomach burning with shame, those were not wasted nights. They were trials. They were your silent coronation. The weak ran to comfort. You endured it raw, and endurance left marks. Marks that whisper, never again. That phrase, quiet in the back of your chest, is worth more than gold. Never again will you kneel. Never again will you flinch. Never again will the sting of betrayal blind you. Because you remember. Because your blood remembers. Think of warriors who leave marks on their shields after battle. Not to celebrate wounds, but to remember. Each scar is a reminder. A lesson. A vow not to be caught unguarded again. Your body works the same way. Your mind may forgive and lie, But blood never lies. Blood tightens your chest when snakes come near. Blood sharpens your eyes when cowards smile too wide. Instinct is memory. Rage is memory. And to wield it well is to become untouchable. Do not spit on your scars. Do not try to hide them. Each one is a carved scripture, declaring victory. They are not signs of loss. They are declarations: I was tested, and I did not die. If you forgive too easily, if you bury too quickly, those scars lose meaning. But if you let memory stay, if you let blood continue whispering its endless oath, you transform into something different, something watchful, patient, inevitable. Every betrayal becomes a brick in your fortress. Every humiliation becomes a weapon hidden under your cloak. Every scar becomes a crown tilted heavier on your head. You are not weakened by memory. You are refined by it. Let others call you ruthless for remembering. Let others call you cold for refusing to forgive. They would rather you soften, so they may wound you again. They would rather you forget, so they may cut deeper without consequence. Their moral codes are chains. Yours is survival. Remember this: a man who forgets his pain is a man already waiting to suffer again. A man who buries his scars will watch them reopen in the same places, by the same hands. But a man who remembers, a man whose blood whispers day and night, is never caught the same way twice. He walks with the ghost of his former shame behind him, and that ghost sharpens his step into a blade. You do not suffer the same humiliation twice when you carry blood that remembers. Your rage does not need to spill. It does not need to scream. Let the herd waste their fury loudly. You will cultivate yours in stillness. Rage, refined, becomes fuel. Every drop of memory becomes strength at the exact moment you need it. Controlled fire, patient blade. Wolves do not howl at every moon. They wait until the throat of prey is within reach. Think back now. The names, the faces, the hours of defeat. Let them rise again. Do you feel it? That surge, that weight in your chest, the tightening that won't leave. Do not run from it. That is not weakness. That is your blood demanding reckoning. That is your fire demanding purpose. Transform it. Fix it into your posture. Let it sharpen your silence. Let it become the unspoken edge every man feels when he meets your eyes and cannot hold the stare. You are not empty. You are not numb. You are carved oak. Veins full of fire. You walk with archives no one can read. But you, the battles you lost, the softness you once showed, the laughter you endured, they thought they buried you in it. Instead, they dug the foundation of a man they will not recognize when you rise. Because your blood keeps the memory, and memory never forgives. So stop forcing yourself to erase what should never be erased. Stop apologizing for scars that kept you alive. Stand in them, carry them. And when the time comes, when your enemies stare into the silence you've become, let your blood do what it's always promised. Let your blood answer, because blood never forgets. Blood remembers, always. Fire is wild. Fire is passion, fury, hunger. It burns bright. It shouts. It consumes. But fire dies. It feeds on what is around it, until there is nothing left. Then it fades into ash. Ice does not fade. Ice endures. And when you learn to become ice, when you crown yourself with winter, no man can manipulate your heat again. The world thrives on your warmth. It feeds on your reactions, on your eagerness to be understood, on the desperate fire of your approval. They provoke you, waiting for the flame. They tug at your guilt, waiting for the apology. They lean on your compassion, waiting for you to forgive. But when all that warmth is gone, when you've frozen over, when your chest carries winter instead of fire, suddenly they have nothing left to feed on. You become untouchable. Do you know what men fear more than rage? They fear the calm that cannot be shaken. They fear the man who does not rise, does not bend, does not explain. Rage is loud. Rage can be controlled, redirected, baited. But cold silence is unreadable. It is immovable. It is the kind of power that eats away at the nervous and the weak, because they never know what waits beneath it. A cold man is a storm with no forecast. Look back on your life. How many times did they win because you burned too bright? Because your fire flared the moment they touched your pride. They did not defeat you with strength. They defeated you with warmth, by reaching into your emotions and pulling fire exactly when they needed it. And later, you blamed yourself for losing control. But you were not weak. You were untrained. Now, no more fire uncontrolled. Now you learn ice, to let the flame freeze into pure restraint, to offer no warmth even when provoked, no outburst even under insult, no explanation even when accused. You sit on your throne of winter, and let them choke on their own attempts. Do you see the power in that? To answer fire with stillness, to answer accusation with calm, to let time, silence, and pressure turn their own actions into their punishment. This is not numbness. This is sovereignty. Most men are addicts of heat. They cannot go a day without seeking praise, validation, kindness, softness. Their crown depends on its shine in others' eyes. But crowns of gold can be stolen. Crowns of ice cannot. An icy man carries his sovereignty, whether alone in exile or standing in the center of kings. His presence chills the room because it requires nothing. He does not barter warmth in exchange for belonging. He does not melt for acceptance. Notice how the world bends to men like this. Stoics, ruthless strategists, quiet rulers. People cannot resist the gravity of ice, because ice is final. Let them burn themselves out while you remain still. Let them scream, insult, demand. Your only answer is silence, colder than steel. That silence makes them reveal themselves faster than any battle could. They will show their weakness while you remain untouched. Your calm, your cold, your refusal to react. That is your weapon. It is how you conserve strength. It is how you outlast. And in war, he who outlasts wins. This is why crowns of ice are heavier, yet unshakable. They are not built from applause. They are carved from detachment. They come not from others' recognition, but from your refusal to bow to emotion's leash. To wear a crown of ice is to no longer be moved by the heat of temptation, the warmth of false belonging, the flames of petty wars. It is to endure winter without complaint, and discover that winter bends others long before it bends you. You may feel the urge to explain yourself. You may feel heat rising when insulted. That is your old self begging to melt, begging to give warmth away. Resist him. He is gone. The boy who needed validation is buried. The man who rules in silence remains. Watch how every time you delay response, every time you resist flinching, every time you hold colder than they expected, you build your crown higher, heavier, until one day, you do not need to prove anything again. They will shiver before you without knowing why. They will hate you for it. They will call you ruthless, unfeeling, inhuman. But that is only because warmth is their leash, and you escaped. The truth is, ice is not emptiness. Ice is mastery. Fire is the beginner's weapon. Fast, dangerous, consuming. Ice is the endgame, untouchable, sovereign, undefeated. So, freeze the need for approval. Freeze the hunger for their applause. Freeze the compulsion to explain. Carry your silence as snow carried by a storm. Heavy, quiet, inevitable. And when they stand before you burning with rage and desperation, you will remain unmoved, solid, winter itself. For in the end, fire falls to ashes, but ice endures, and those who endure rule. You spent years apologizing for every step, every breath, every scar across your chest. You bent your neck, you burned yourself down for the comfort of others, and it almost broke you, until the day you saw the truth, until the day you looked into the ashes and realized you were never broken. You were reforged. You were becoming. The furnace of pain has already done its work. The wolf in you has already ripped the leash. Silence has already crowned you. Exile has already reforged you. Blood has etched the memories that will never fade. Ice has chilled you into restraint. And now the final breath leaves the old man behind. That boy who apologized for his existence is gone. In his place stands something they never expected. Understand this. Kings do not apologize. Thrones are not built on regret. Crowns are not carried by the meek. Kings are forged from scars, from exile, from silence, from blood that remembers everything and forgives nothing. You do not apologize for surviving hell when others would have died there. You do not apologize for the fire that carved strength into your spine. You do not apologize for the silence that others call arrogance, the cold that others mistake for cruelty, the scars they think make you monstrous. You do not apologize, because every piece they despise is exactly what made you sovereign. Apology is the tongue of the defeated. Forgiveness is the leash of the weak. You were not made to kneel anymore. You were not made to bleed out words just to comfort those who betrayed you. You were not made to live as half of yourself in order to cradle fragile egos. That self died in the furnace long ago, and the one who stands here now carries something heavier than forgiveness and sharper than apology. You carry silence. You carry restraint. You carry a crown invisible, yet towering above anyone who dared mock you. Think, what is power if not the refusal to bend? What is sovereignty if not the audacity to exist without explanation? Wolves do not kneel to sheep. Fire does not apologize to forests. Ice does not forgive the weak who shiver beneath it. And kings do not beg for understanding from those whose names will never outlast theirs. Why should you? Why should you bow to those who could never survive your nights? Every scar you've hidden, reveal it to yourself. Every betrayal you endured, mark it as a stone in your ascent. Every exile you suffered, wear it as armor no steel can pierce. This is your throne, not golden, not given, but forged in silence, fire, exile, and endurance. Do you feel it yet? That weight on your shoulders, that crown of scars, of discipline, of cold restraint. That is the mark of the man who no longer apologizes for existing. The world will feel it. They will sense it in the way you move, in the way you no longer seek permission, in the silence you hold like a blade. They will bend without knowing why. They will try to provoke it, challenge it, mock it. But none of it will touch you, because you know now what they do not. Power is not in words. Power is not in forgiveness. Power is not in apology. Power is in silence unbroken, in memory unforgiven, in fire endured and ice embodied. Power is in becoming a crown carried in the mind and blood. Do not open your mouth to soothe them again. Let their accusations burn out unanswered. Let their insults rot in air unreturned. Let their betraying eyes see themselves reflected in your stillness and break under its weight. You owe them nothing. Not your warmth, not your mercy, not your forgiveness. Nothing. You walk forward now with the blood of wolves and the frost of kings. This world taught you to bow. You refused. They left you bleeding in exile. You endured. They mocked you for your silence. It crowned you. They struck you with betrayal. Your blood remembered. They begged to break you with their need of forgiveness. You withheld. And in every step, you built yourself into something they cannot name, cannot bend, cannot destroy. This is the coronation. A man reborn, not from kindness, not from applause, but from hunger, pain, and exile. A man who carries silence like a sword. A man whose eyes freeze fire itself. A man who no longer bows to words like sorry or forgive. A man who knows that his scars are his throne. So stand now and understand you are not the boy they dismissed. You are not the beggar who bent. You are not the flame that burned out. You are the wolf grown full. You are the king crowned in silence. You are the man who will never apologize again. They wanted to bury you in regret. They wanted you chained to forgiveness. They wanted you small, explainable, soft. Instead, you drowned them in silence. And in that silence, you became sovereign. Forged kings do not apologize.